What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the CWI Summer Conference. I'm here with the man, the myth, and the legend. the director is here with us, Dr. Peter Carmichael. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. My talk's done, and that's always a big relief.
Yeah.
Right, when you have to get up there and perform, and C-SPAN does it live, and that's makes you a little anxious.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's good. Everything's going well, and it appears that everyone is enjoying it.
Yeah.
No one's snoozing.
Yeah.
At least I haven't
It's
noticed
a full
that.
house, right?
It's a full house. Yeah, we got more than 300 people. Yeah,
it's bigger than I've
Yeah.
seen in a long time.
It's
A lot of people are
absolutely.
enjoying
We're
themselves.
usually around like 280 to 300, and yeah, we have a lot of young people, more than usual.
That's great.
So yeah, no, it's always got a good vibe, and we've got tours tonight. I hope the weather holds out, and then a
Right.
day of lectures tomorrow, again on C-SPAN Live, and then on Monday and Tuesday tours again.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
some good stuff.
I want to thank you again for letting us do this
Yeah.
up here. Let
No,
us do
no,
live
man.
streams so we can take it out to new people.
Yeah, no, it's certainly it's our pleasure to have you here. As I've said time and time again, the good work you do in making history accessible to a wide range of audiences. I just quickly say the Wall Street Journal lately came out with a piece. Maybe you saw it. It's
Right, I did.
2 weeks old now, about the declining interest in Civil War history. Certainly, that argument could be made, but if you're going to make that argument, you have to take into consideration the things that you and others do, the social media aspects, the way that you are giving live presentations, right, to audiences through Facebook. He didn't consider any of that. The
Right.
author of that Wall Street Journal piece,
Right.
he looked at it in a pretty traditional way, and so he missed out on audiences
Other stuff,
that you've
yeah.
created, right? And all of that
Well,
was not
me and
accounted
many
for.
others,
Yeah,
yes.
many others. That's
yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's not just me.
Not just you.
But I would have liked to have had a phone call to get in on that article.
Well, I did have a phone call with him, and so did another fellow down at the University of Alabama, Glenn Brasher. And Glenn and I said, well, just basically what I just told you.
Yeah.
He didn't include anything that countered his argument.
Uh,
He sort of just looked the other way. So that's
Right.
unfortunate.
That
It
is
wasn't as balanced as it certainly should be. And all it does, it fuels that idea that the past doesn't really matter to today's generation, younger generation, which
Right.
is just not true.
Yeah.
Just not true at all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
a
right.
sad thing. But now we have something to fight against in our own way and say, hey, this is not dying. This is something that we're looking forward to.
That's right, and just keep doing what you're doing, right? The one thing that I have noticed, though, is so many public historians who have now been accepted, right? Academic and public historians have absolutely come together, but there are a few public historians who still feel like they've been marginalized, and I just don't see it. And I think the more kinds of things that you do and others as well. Keep breaking down those barriers and just stop with, let's just talk about the history. Stop talking about how some people are marginalized. Some people don't, are not fully embraced by the profession. Look, the profession is professional, academic, public historians, amateurs, whatever the hell you want to call them. You're interested in the past, there's a way to find someone to talk to.
Right. There's a home for it.
There is a home there.
Many homes for
Many
it.
homes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you just got off stage.
I did.
And
I
main
did.
stage, obviously.
Main stage. Advantage of being the director.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just so
that's
happened
it.
to be on main stage.
So you spoke about a family out of your
So
your
that's
book.
from my book. That's right. David Beam and Mahala Beam. They were from Owen County, Indiana, which is west of Indianapolis and a little to the south. He was a lawyer before the war. They got married in 1862, and the talk was about a couple that just didn't get along during the war. Now we only have 2 letters from Mahala, the wife, but from David's letters, time and time again, he was very much displeased with how she wrote to him. She never wrote him letters of support. She never fully appreciated his sacrifice for the cause, and insisted time and time again that he come home. And so the back and forth between the two of them, I think, is a window into how some couples did not subscribe to the gender conventions of the day, right? Women were supposed to be supportive. They were not supposed to have political views, and certainly she violated all of that. So as I was talking about it's called microhistory, and it'd be interesting with your audiences. A lot of people have just come up to me and they said, I've never heard of microhistory, but I like that kind of history. I've read that kind of history. I've heard it presented before, and I really feel that microhistory is a way to return stories, right?
Right.
Get to real people,
Yeah.
but also make some bigger connections with them. So
Yeah, and we live in an era where we want things fast and correct and all that, and especially with stuff like this, where it's right there. You can tune in, you can tune out. Microhistory has a way of doing that as well.
And it does, and it allows you to get a lot of different narratives that you can put side by side, which we should do instead of falling into, we've got to find that one great story and tell that, because that is the story that's reflective of what really happened. I'm curious how you feel about this. Is there such thing as a true war story? Do you think there is?
No, I don't think there is. I think there's a lot of different war stories. Just like you say, there's no common Civil War soldier.
That's right.
I think it's the same thing. I think a war story is different for each individual person, whether they're on the front line or they're at home waiting for their significant other to come home.
And when we can remove ourselves from trying to find that one true war story, and then it really opens up the richness, right, of all the participants and what they see and how they represent that.
Do you think that's come about because of we grew up with the movies of Audie Murphy and all these other entities that came about, Red Badge of Courage and all this, and we've been filled with that idea that this is a war story and this is the true war story and stuff like that?
I think it even digs deeper into just how we see history, right? We're told at an early age, read this textbook, here are some facts, get them down, and history. Right, pass the test. It's like Michael, I might have said this before when we were together, the Michael Scott incident on The Office. Remember how he said, how do you learn about science? You don't need to read a book. What do you need to do? You go to a science museum, you put your hands on one of those big light bulbs, your hair stands up, and you know science, right? Right? You know science, right? And so I think often, though, with history, we think, like, go to a battlefield and you can feel the past. Maybe, I'm okay with that, but you really know the past, right? And at the end of the day, right, it can take serious reflection, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have to be fun and enjoyable and divorce of people.
Right.
And and that's why people listen. That's why they come here. They want to learn about those historical actors, but they want to talk about it with other folks. And that's the only maybe there's more than one thing that I'd say to your audience is, like, I hope you find a way to come to an event like this so you can talk to the tattoo historian and have a face-to-face conversation. Right? Nothing beats it. Nothing beats it. I just left our lunch, and we had a table of 15 people, and we talked about the nature of combat as it is represented in Civil War letters. 15 of us. We had the letters there. And then on Tuesday, you're coming to Antietam.
Yes, I'll be at the Antietam, and I'll be shooting some live stream for the channel.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
We'll have people out there. Trust me, I'll talk. Probably too much. But we'll have letters out there, and we'll read them and talk about it. That's good stuff.
And when they tuned in partially to the Culp's Hill tour that we did.
Yeah, that was great.
And I have had more feedback from that here this weekend,
That's
saying,
good.
"Oh, we really love the Culp's Hill tour," and it was bringing those letters to the field and showcasing those and coming together and discussing them in the field.
There's nothing like it.
No,
there's absolutely nothing like it. And that's what we'll be doing all day on Tuesday. And this Beam fellow I just talked about, who survived the attack against the Sunken Lane, for his regiment to then be rewarded by being the first attack against Maurice Heights. It was just awful, right? But we're going to go to the Sunken Lane on Tuesday and read the letters of some other men who were in his regiment, who wrote about it in some very different ways, which I think is. So we need to talk before I know we have to go here. So what was the thing you did at Gary Owen?
WTF moments of the Civil War.
So what was yours? You never really said it. Do they already know, though? No.
If they tuned in, they know. I did something on Albert Jenkins' cavalry coming into Chambersburg, and they went galloping into Chambersburg and guns blazing, kind of like out of Blazing Saddles. And it was 11 o'clock at night, and they didn't realize that there were like stone abutments around the flagpole. And when the head of the column got to the flagpole, they tripped their horses over the stone and went flying. And now you have guys at the rear of the column who are saying, well, I hear gunfire, echoes of gunfire, and I see guys falling, and they freak out, and they leave Chambersburg. And I talked about that, and I talked about out here on the third day during Pickett's charge, there was a artillery battery that was taking some pretty extreme casualties, and they pulled guys from the infantry line. I was talking about the infantrymen who were manning the gun, and it all went awry.
Right, didn't go well.
Yeah, it did not go well. Yeah, they lost the barrel of the gun. So we talked about that for a little
So I don't
bit.
have I have to think of a
stuff.
WTF moment, and we'll have to come back to that.
Yeah.
I often think about what moment would I like to have seen. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, Appomattox, like, give me a break, right? You got enough descriptions of that, right?"
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
I'm going to go to the moment Shepherdstown, so a little
Okay.
unusual.
Okay.
The fight at Shepherdstown Ford, obviously after Antietam, when the Federals crossed and they made a lodgment on the Maryland side, or excuse me, on the Virginia side. And the reserve Confederate artillery, hodgepodge of batteries were on that. And William Nelson Pendleton, who was not the strongest artillerist in these armies, for whatever reason, he saw the crossing and he immediately panicked. He had General Lee awakened in the middle of the night, and he said to General Lee, all of the reserve artillery has been captured. We're talking about 30 guns.
Wow.
You can imagine a sleepy Lee,
Right.
and he said, all of it? And Pendleton said, all of it. And then walked away. I would have loved to have seen Lee's face.
Right.
I mean, this idea of this man who's always in
Right.
complete control and composure.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he was too sleepy to fully appreciate, because Pendleton was wrong. Just 4 guns were captured. That was it.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
the moment where I'd like to be. But you have to come back to me. I have to really have to give this some
We'll
thought.
have to have an WTF moment.
Yeah,
evening
I
at
think
Gary
with the
Owen.
Civil War Institute, and we can go back
Yeah.
and do something at Gary Owen.
Yeah.
That would be fun,
It
man.
definitely wouldn't be a snooze fest.
No,
There'll be a
I
lot
like
of
that
laughter.
idea. Yeah.
The other thing, you bring up an interesting thing, because I saw an interview a couple of years ago with some people who said, what is a moment you would like to go back and witness during the Civil War? And they interviewed 6 people or so, and 5 of the 6 picked something in combat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was all centered on combat. They didn't want to talk about other things. And I kind of fell into that trap for a while. I was like, I would like to see the firing on Fort Sumter, because no one dies.
Right. No one dies.
You know,
except
but you
when,
could see
when they did the flag ceremony.
Right.
So there's kind of a WTF moment, right?
Yeah.
They do a flag ceremony, and then when they are bringing down the stars, right?
Right.
Stars and Stripes.
Right.
A cannon exploded, and some guys
Yeah.
got killed there. Right?
Yeah.
That's a crazy thing.
Yeah.
So that's where you wanted to be. That's where you wanted to be.
I would have wanted to see what that looked like, and know that no one was killed.
Right,
at that time,
right,
you know?
right.
I think that'd be interesting, because
Yeah.
something different. You know?
So I'll do my non-combat. My non-combat would be to follow a group of deserters, right, and follow them slipping out of camp. I'm curious, how do they try to pull this off? I mean, many obviously succeeded. Do they only go at night? Are they always in the woods? Do they stay along the road? How do they deal with civilians? Do they keep having to pull out their guns and say,
right.
we're eating, you're giving us some food, you're giving us some money? I'd
Right.
like to know,
Yeah.
right, the tactics of deserting.
That's a very
The
interesting thing.
tactics of deserting.
That's
kinda cool.
very interesting. Yeah, I never thought of that. Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever really. Well, you know what? It's just I say, there's not a source on that.
Yeah.
There's always something.
Oh yeah.
There's always something.
And someone out there may be able to find it.
Absolutely.
You never know. When they say, "Oh, everything's written on the Civil
It's
War,"
not.
no,
It's
not true.
it's not even close.
Right.
Not even close.
Right, and we
Always a new story. That's the advantage of microhistory.
Yeah.
Every
exactly.
story needs to be told.
And you've been very supportive of the programming at Gary Owen, and that's kind of a micro history evening,
Yeah,
you know, where we
absolutely,
can give you an hour-long taste of
Yeah,
something, and you just
yeah.
take it away and go.
That's right. That's right.
Try to figure that out.
And drink some beer and have the good food there as well.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah,
excellent
obviously.
food. Yeah.
Obviously.
And
Yeah.
my wife started drinking Irish whiskey because of that place.
Oh really?
I
Or was it because of our program?
Yeah, I think it was a part because maybe both. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not an Irish. I mean, well, look at me. I mean, in the Civil War, I'd have been a dandy. Let's not make any. I'm an effete academic. I wish it weren't the case.
Yeah.
My first whiskey I ever drank was with Susanna Ural, who wrote Hood's
Okay.
Texas Brigade. It was in Kentucky.
Yeah.
She ordered it for me, and then she made the mistake of turning around and having a conversation. And so I had one of those little thin, little twizzly straws.
Yeah.
You're supposed to just stir it, but I was
You're
drinking.
drinking through
She
it.
turned around. She said, "What? Don't do that." I clearly had humiliated her, so I learned. I'm sorry. I like drinks that have fruit in them, including my beer.
I know, you told me that, yeah.
I'm not a man's man. That's
Yeah.
just how it is.
I just drink coffee.
That's a
fine.
tough drink. I love the smell. I can't stand the drink.
It's very Civil War of me.
It is
Hard
very
coffee.
Civil War.
Hard
Yeah,
coffee.
absolutely, absolutely.
But yeah, I saw that you had a packed house when you were
that's great.
doing the presentation. And I'm glad that we have a packed house downstairs, and a lot of we have like 3 generations of people hanging out here, which is something I really enjoy seeing too. It's not just a bunch of people who are in their 80s, and it's not a bunch of people who are just 16-year-olds.
That's right.
It's everybody.
Well, we've got some great high school scholarship kids who are here, and they're fantastic. They're eager and they're smart, and just stop with the easy generalizations that young people just don't care. It's just, I mean, yes, of course, but there are plenty of old people who just don't care. So
Exactly.
it's just the way it is. Like I said, focus. There's so much good and positive things. People don't get to do that. Yeah, are we about done yet?
The behind Pickett's division.
That's what we're thinking about, behind Pickett's division. We always look along lines of advance, and so we're hoping that we can pull that off. There might be some scheduling challenges, but in the fall.
Well, you've often said that when you go out on the battlefield, it's what do you say, misleading, or the way it tells you to look towards one direction.
Always along lines of advance. We are oriented that way. And I'll just say, as a grand statement about any battlefield, they're seductive places because they are one commemorative landscapes, and they are beautifully manicured. And my first point when we go to Antietam, don't let this place mislead you. Take you away from the fact it's a killing field. You go to Verdun, you're not going to forget that. You go to Verdun in France, and wherever you turn, this is one fiendish place. And now when you go to our Civil War battlefields, that's not the case.
So when we go to Antietam early this week coming up, I'll be live streaming 15 minutes or so of it, maybe just a little bit more if I can sneak it in there, weasel it in there.
Do whatever you want to do.
And you'll see Pete there, and who's joining us? Jim Broomall?
Jim Broomall and Keith Bohannon. Keith is a professor at West Georgia's expertise on Army of Tennessee and Army of Northern Virginia, and particularly things Georgian. And he's very dynamic. He has been looking at the Civil War experience in Georgia, no exaggeration, since he was about 10 or 11. He used to drive out. His parents, of course, would take him. He would go to little historical societies, right? He would go, not just photocopy letters, but he would have one of those old photography stands, and he would take pictures of soldiers. And his files are phenomenal. The depth of his knowledge is just it truly is about Georgia. No one knows more, and he's worked in the Park Service a lot, so he actually knows how to speak. And like an academic, he's not going to be reading any. He won't ever read his paper. He goes at it.
Yeah,
he goes at it.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
And you all be able to tune into some of that. And Pete, I thank you for coming on.
No,
the
man,
live stream.
it's a real pleasure. And also remember, tattooed historian, he is. You challenged me to get a tattoo, and you're going to do it live.
Yes, we got to figure out what you're going to get. Some out of hardtack and coffee.
You've got to convince me that you're not going to have to give me some leather to bite on and a swig of whiskey to get through it. I don't like pain.
No.
I mean, who does? But
I
really don't like it. I hate needles. That's incredible. You don't like needles, and you do this.
Yeah.
I do too.
I don't like giving blood because
I agree.
Give blood.
I agree.
But anyway.
Give blood.
But anyway, thank you all for tuning in.
Thanks.
Appreciate you. Take care. Have a good day.
Take care. Thank you.